Hello everyone and welcome to another review here on Questrified. My name is Serafina and I'm here with Bray, and today we are taking a look at the movie Psycho. So let's get into it. Released in 1960, directed by Alfred Hitchcock and written by Joseph Stefano, based on the book by Robert Bloch. The movie starts by introducing the love affair between Marion Crane, played by Janet Leigh, and Sam Loomis, played by John Gavin. You catch the struggle that these two people are going through in order to be together. Marion returns to work. She works in a real estate office, and in comes a wealthy man who likes to not buy happiness, but rather buy off unhappiness. He is purchasing a house for his daughter who's getting married. He shells out $40,000 cash for said house. He flirts with Marion, but she pays him no mind. She asks to go home early as she has a headache. Her boss tells her to put the money in the safe deposit box at the bank until Monday.
And during this, the whole thing where she's deciding to leave, it's not decided by her boss, it's decided by the wealthy man. He's just like, you can go. Doesn't know how important her job is.
Marion takes the money home and is packing to leave Phoenix and head to Fairvale, California to be with Sam. She takes the money, but on her way out of town, her boss spots her out and about. She imagines in her head what each person would say about her. She's driving late into the night and decides to pull to the side of the road for a brief sleep. She sleeps all night and is awakened by a policeman knocking on her window. This is the most serious cop I have ever seen.
And there's also a cop who does not understand how close you can be to a camera, because he is super close in this movie.
He seems to be following her after he is satisfied that she owns her car and is alright. Marion goes to a used car dealership in order to trade in her car for a different one. This costs her $700 out of the $40,000.
And also, while she's there, this car salesman says that the first customer of the day is the most trouble, yet throughout this entire, interaction he has with Marion, he's the one causing the bigger trouble for Marion.
She gets in her new ride and drives off. As evening falls, rain is picked up, and through the rainstorm she sees the sign for the Bates Motel. After laying on the horn, the motel operator comes down to tend to her, and it is a young man by the name of Norman Bates, played by the fabulous Anthony Perkins. He checks her in and she signs in under a fake name. They have a bit of small talk and he offers her food. He goes to prepare it and she catches an argument between Norman and his mother. Norman returns with food for Marion, and in his office they go. There is quite a conversation here, and Tony Perkins' delivery of his lines in these scenes are pure perfection. People always mean well. They cluck their thick tongues and suggest oh so very delicately. You get to know a little about Norman. Anyway, he convinces her to go back to Phoenix to face the music without him telling her to do so. It's just what she gets out of the conversation. Marion proves she is a blonde and has to subtract the $700 from the $40,000 on paper, because you can't do that in your head. Then comes the moment of history. A flushing toilet is shown on camera. Marion gets into the shower, and in comes Mrs. Bates to handle the situation. Norman screams from the house, "Blood! Oh, God, Mother! Blood! Blood!" He runs down to the motel and finds Marion dead on the bathroom floor. He cleans up the murder scene like the dutiful son that he is, but Jeesley Crow, if they brought in some luminol, that bathroom would light up like a Christmas tree. Norman puts Marion in her car and drives it to the swamp that's on his property. Now Lila, Marion's sister, gets involved. Lila is played by Vera Miles. She goes to Sam's place of employment and asks him directly where her sister is. But Sam is clueless. Enter Arbogast, played by Martin Balsam. He is a private investigator hired to find Marion and the money. Arbogast visits the Bates Motel and has a chat with Norman. Another brilliant performance by Tony Perkins. He trips up and makes the detective suspicious. She may have fooled me, but she didn't fool my mother. Arbogast wants to speak with the mother, but Norman refuses. The detective leaves but plans to come back, and he does.
And also, back when Arbogast enters into this whole movie, he's another one who doesn't quite understand that, how close you can be to the camera, and he gets super duper in your face with that.
Maybe that's just how Alfred Hitchcock liked to introduce people.
It's I want you to come on in. You open the door, and you get right up in there. We can see your breath.
We want to see every pore on your face. With a great overhead shot, we see Mrs. Bates come out of her room and slice at Arbogast.
Another thing about this whole thing is how he somehow is able to walk his way backwards down the stairs without ever tripping during the entire time.
Well, it's him falling down the stairs.
But you see he just walks back there. Even when they cut from the whole moving picture behind him, you can tell he's just walking backwards.
The camera then turns to follow the detective down the stairs where Mrs. Bates goes to finish the job. Lila and Sam are growing restless not hearing from Arbogast. Sam decides he will drive out to the motel. Norman is once again at the swamp and hears Sam calling for the detective, but makes no effort to communicate with Sam. Sam and Lila go to see the deputy sheriff, where they learn that Norman's mother has been dead for many years. The pair then decide to go to the motel themselves after they get no help from the police. They check in. Sam finds Norman and keeps him busy with conversation, while Lila goes to the house to find Mrs. Bates, or whatever woman they think is in the house. Norman and Sam get into a physical struggle, and Norman knocks him out. He goes up to the house, but Lila decides to hide from him in the fruit cellar, the very place where earlier you see Norman carry his mother out of her room to hide her in the fruit cellar. Lila finds her and attempts to get her attention. In doing so, we find that Mrs. Bates is a mummified corpse, and in steps Norman dressed in a wig and dress, brandishing a large knife. Sam comes in just in time to save Lila. Norman is arrested and a psychiatrist speaks with him. We find out that Norman killed his mother and could not live with this fact or the ability to live without her. He stole her body and began to act like her. He took on her personality and held conversations with himself. He was sometimes all his mother. He was often both Norman and his mother, but he was never all Norman. At this point, he is all mother, and Norman is gone, and no one knows when he's going to come back out. That is Psycho. This movie is considered the birth of the slasher genre. This is such a great movie, and no matter how many years pass, it holds up and is still very enjoyable to watch. Next week, we'll be looking at Psycho 2. It takes place 22 years after the first one in the movie's timeline, and in the real world timeline as well.
With this film, it is a very iconic film for what it had established back then, and being the very first film based on Ed Gein's murders at the time. Very loosely, though, when you look at what actually happened with Ed Gein. But it was something that kind of bothers me about this film is how long it takes to get to Norman. There is no hints of this threat. So for the first possible half of it, before Norman shows up, there is real no threat. Other than Marion thinking that this rich man's gonna just skin her because she took money from him and all that. And that's just, I think, the only conflict. And then also the very in-your-face cop who gets there as well.
Well, it's an older movie, so, back in the day, it was always like a dame. She broke the law, the police are after her. But then it turns into this slasher. She gets killed. And you really don't see that coming.
Yeah, because this is long before, the whole Drew Barrymore twist of Scream. And to think that Janet Leigh, her daughter, Jamie Lee Curtis is known for being one of the original Final Girls who really pushed to establish that, while Janet Leigh is one of those early on type of actresses who had showed off this whole subverting the expectation of the audience on who they thought was the main character.
So do you give it thumbs up or thumbs down?
I'd give this a movie thumbs up. It's held up after, now it's been 50 years since that movie came out, so it's held up throughout every decade. It's continued on.
Well put together, well written story.
And even though they changed up from the book about the whole switching up to The Boy Next Door with Anthony Perkins playing Norman Bates, Anthony Perkins was no slouch about this character. He gave it his all.
He did such a great job. Norman is so enjoyable to watch. You could just watch him all day long. The way he delivers his lines, his monologues are just perfect in this movie, and he delivers them so well. I just love Anthony Perkins. Okay, that's it for us this week. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you in the next video. Please take care of yourselves.
Bye.
Bye.